Laura stood in the kitchen of a small suburban house staring at the stove. She was cooking dinner again, baked chicken, mac and cheese, and green beans, just like Keisha liked it. But she had no idea if the girl would even eat it. Only 3 months ago, Laura had been a successful lawyer in Chicago. Her life was fast, organized, and focused. But everything changed when her husband, Marcus, got a call from his ex-wife's family. Her health had taken a turn for the worse, and she could no longer care for their 14-year-old daughter, Keisha. Marcus had looked at Laura and said, "She needs to come live with us." Laura had nodded. She didn't even hesitate. Within 2 weeks, she quit her job, gave up her city apartment, and moved into a quieter part of town. Marcus promised he'd support her, but Laura quickly realized she was the one taking care of everything. Keisha didn't make it easy. She was quiet, moody, and distant. She wore her white shirt and headphones like armor, blocking everyone out. Her black hair covered half her face, and she barely looked at Laura when spoken to. Laura tried to bond. She offered to help with homework, bought snacks Keisha liked, and even decorated her room with posters of her favorite music artists. But nothing seemed to work. Today was no different. Laura sat at the table waiting as Keisha walked through the front door. "Hey, I made dinner," Laura said with a smile. Keisha glanced at the food, shrugged, and headed upstairs. "Can you please sit with me for just 10 minutes?" Laura asked gently. Keisha paused on the stairs and turned around slowly. "You're not my real mother," she said flatly. "You don't have to try so hard." The words hit Laura harder than she expected. She smiled through it, nodded, and said, "Okay, let me know if you're hungry." Keisha walked away without another word. Laura sat at the table alone, her white shirt now wrinkled from the long day. Her jeans felt tighter than usual. She felt tired, unsure, and invisible. She glanced at a photo on the fridge. It was of her and Marcus, smiling at their wedding. She wasn't just his wife anymore. She was a stepmother now. But what did that even mean when the child didn't want her? Upstairs, Keisha sat on her bed, arms crossed. She didn't hate Laura, not really. She just missed her mom. This house didn't feel like home yet, and every kind gesture from Laura reminded her of everything that had changed. Laura cleaned up quietly. She packed the food into containers, wiped the table, and sat on the couch, wondering if tomorrow would be any different. But something inside her told her not to give up. Not yet. Don't forget to subscribe. These real stories remind us that sometimes love isn't instant, but it's real. The next morning, Laura woke up early and packed lunch for Keisha. She made a turkey sandwich, added an apple, and even put in a small note that said, "Hope today is better." She wasn't sure if Keisha would even read it. Keisha came downstairs wearing her white shirt again. Her black hair was pulled back into a low ponytail, and she looked tired. She grabbed her bag without saying anything. "Your lunch is on the counter," Laura said softly. Keisha looked at the brown bag, then at Laura. She took it without a word and walked out the door. No thank you. No eye contact. Laura stood there holding a coffee mug, trying not to feel hurt. Marcus walked in wearing his work uniform. He kissed Laura on the cheek and smiled. "How's she doing?" he asked. "Same," Laura said quietly. "I'm trying, but it's like I'm invisible." "She'll come around, just give her time," he said. But he was already checking his phone, rushing to work. Laura spent the day cleaning the house, doing laundry, and looking up teen-friendly recipes. She even searched online for tips on bonding with stepchildren. Most articles said the same thing. Be patient. Be present. Don't expect too much too soon. After school, Keisha came home and went straight to her room. Laura walked up and knocked gently. "I made spaghetti," she said. "You hungry?" A pause, then a quiet. "I'll eat later." "Okay, I'll leave some for you." Laura walked away, feeling like a guest in her own home. Later that night, she noticed the lunch bag in the trash. The sandwich was gone, but the note was still inside. Unread, she picked it up, sighed, and tossed it back. In her room, Keisha sat on her bed with her headphones in. But she kept glancing at the door. Part of her wanted to open it and say something. Saturday morning started like most. Laura made pancakes, hoping Keisha might come down and eat with her. She even added chocolate chips, just how Keisha's dad said she liked them. Laura sat at the kitchen table waiting. The house was quiet, except for the sound of the spatula scraping the pan. Keisha finally came downstairs wearing her usual white shirt, her black hair still covering one side of her face. She didn't look at Laura. She walked straight to the fridge and grabbed a juice box. "I made pancakes," Laura said with a hopeful smile. "Want some?" Keisha looked at the plate on the table and then looked at Laura. "I didn't ask you to," she said coldly. Laura's smile faded, but she stayed calm. "I know, but I thought it might be nice to eat together today." Keisha sat down slowly. She poked at the pancake with her fork. "You're not my real mother," Keisha said suddenly. "So you don't have to pretend." Those words hit Laura hard. She tried to keep her voice steady. "I'm not pretending. I'm just trying to be here for you." Keisha didn't respond. She took one bite of the pancake, then stood up. "I'm going to my room," she said. Laura nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched Keisha walk away and felt a tight knot in her chest. After cleaning the table, Laura sat on the couch, staring out the window. Her hands were shaking a little. She wasn't angry, just sad. Marcus came home later that afternoon. Laura told him what happened. "She's just upset," he said. "She's dealing with a lot right now." "I know she is," Laura replied, "but I gave up everything to be here. I'm trying, Marcus, and it hurts when she says I'm not her real mother. I know I'm not, but I'm doing my best." Marcus hugged her. "I appreciate everything you've done, and one day she will too." But Laura wasn't sure. That night, she didn't bother making a fancy dinner. She reheated leftovers and ate alone. Keisha stayed in her room, door closed. Laura didn't cry, but she lay awake for hours thinking, was she pushing too hard? Should she stop trying so much? Meanwhile, in her room, Keisha sat by the window holding a photo of her mom. She wasn't angry at Laura. She was just lost, scared, and still hurting from everything that had changed. She whispered to herself, "I didn't mean it like that." But she didn't know how to say it out loud. Both of them sat in different rooms in the same house, feeling like strangers. And neither one knew how to take the first step toward fixing it. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, flipping through some work files. He looked tired. Laura placed a cup of coffee in front of him and sat across from him. "We need to talk," she said. Marcus looked up. "About Keisha?" Laura nodded. "I don't know what else to do. She won't talk to me. She barely eats when I cook. And then she says I'm not her real mother. I know she's hurting. But I'm hurting too." Marcus rubbed his face. "She's just a kid. Her whole life got turned upside down. She needs time." "And what about me?" Laura asked. "I gave up my job, my friends, everything. I'm here every day trying my best, and it feels like I don't exist." Marcus didn't know what to say. He reached across the table and held her hand. "I see what you're doing. I appreciate it, but I can't force her to feel something she's not ready for." Laura pulled her hand away gently. "I know you're working hard, but I feel like I'm doing this alone. You're barely here, Marcus, and when you are, you act like things are fine." Marcus sighed. "I'm not trying to ignore it. I just don't want to make it worse." In the hallway, Keisha stood quietly. She had come down for a snack but stopped when she heard her name. She didn't mean to eavesdrop, but she couldn't stop listening. "Maybe she doesn't want me here," Laura said softly. "Maybe I should go back to the city and let you two figure things out." Keisha's heart dropped. She didn't want Laura to leave, not really. But she also didn't know how to let her in. Back in the kitchen, Marcus shook his head. "Don't say that. We're a family now. We just need to find a way to make it work." "Then help me," Laura said. "Don't leave it all on me." Marcus nodded. "I will. We'll talk to her together tonight." That night, they all sat in the living room. Laura in her white shirt and jeans, Marcus next to her, and Keisha across the room, quiet and nervous. "Keisha," Marcus began, "We know this has been hard on you. But Laura's been trying her best. We just want to understand how you feel." Keisha looked at the floor. "I don't know how I feel. Everything's just different now." "It's okay to feel that way," Laura said gently. "I'm not here to replace your mom. I just want to be someone you can trust." Keisha didn't say anything, but she didn't walk away either. And that was the first time they all sat in the same room talking, even if the words were few. It was small progress, but it was something. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon. School had ended 2 hours ago, but Keisha wasn't home yet. Laura stood by the window, checking her phone again and again. No messages, no missed calls. She called Marcus. "She's not back. She always walks home. It's been too long." "Maybe she stayed late at school," Marcus said, trying to sound calm. "She never does that," Laura replied. "I'm going to look for her." Laura grabbed her coat and keys, heart racing. She drove around the neighborhood, stopping by the school first. The building was almost empty. "Have you seen Keisha?" she asked the front office lady. "She left right after school," the woman said. Laura thanked her and got back into the car, her hands shaking. She drove past nearby streets, parks, and even checked the small grocery store Keisha liked. No sign of her. Just as panic started to build, Laura turned into the school's back parking lot and spotted a small figure sitting behind the gym, huddled in the rain. "Keisha," she called out, jumping from the car. Keisha looked up, her face wet from both rain and tears. She didn't say anything as Laura ran over. Laura knelt down and wrapped her coat around Keisha's shoulders. "What happened?" Laura asked softly. Keisha shook her head. "Some girls, they said stuff, called me names, laughed at me because I live here now. I didn't want to go home." Laura's heart broke. "I'm so sorry, Keisha. None of that is your fault. They don't know you. They don't matter." Keisha leaned into her just a little. Not a hug, but enough. "I didn't know who to call," she whispered. "You called me without calling," Laura said. "I'm just glad I found you." They sat in silence for a minute before Laura gently helped her up and walked her to the car. She turned on the heater and handed her a towel from the back seat. On the ride home, Keisha didn't speak much, but she didn't put her headphones in either. Once they got home, Laura made her a cup of hot cocoa. Keisha sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, eyes still red. "Thank you," she said quietly. Laura looked up, surprised. "You don't have to thank me." "I know," Keisha said, "but I wanted to." Marcus came home shortly after, worried but relieved to see Keisha safe. That night, something changed. Keisha came downstairs for dinner without being asked. She didn't say much, but she sat at the table with Laura and Marcus. It wasn't a full smile yet, but there was less distance in her eyes. And for Laura, that small step meant everything. The next morning, Laura made breakfast like always, but this time Keisha came into the kitchen without being called. She still wore her usual white shirt, but her face looked softer, calmer. "Can I help with the eggs?" Keisha asked quietly. Laura looked up, a little surprised. "Sure. You can stir them while I toast the bread." They worked side by side in the kitchen. No big conversations, just simple steps. Laura handed her the whisk, and Keisha started mixing slowly. It felt normal, like something families did every day. When they sat at the table, Keisha took a bite and said, "They taste good." Laura smiled. "Thank you." After breakfast, Keisha went to school, and Laura cleaned up the dishes. She felt lighter. The tension in the house had finally started to melt. That evening, Laura and Keisha watched a movie together. Laura had rented one of Keisha's favorite animated films. Keisha curled up on the couch under a blanket. Laura sat at the other end, careful not to crowd her. Halfway through the movie, Keisha said, "You can sit closer if you want." Laura moved a little closer, and they watched the rest of the movie without saying much. But by the end, Keisha had leaned slightly against Laura's arm. It wasn't a hug, but it felt like one. The next day after school, Keisha walked into the kitchen and said, "I want to cook something this weekend." Laura looked up from her laptop. "Sure. What do you want to make? Mac and cheese, Keisha said, but the way my mom used to make it. Laura nodded. You can show me. Keisha smiled, just a little. On Saturday, they cooked together. Keisha directed each step like a chef. Laura followed her lead, letting Keisha take control. They laughed when the cheese spilled and tasted the sauce together before pouring it over the noodles. When Marcus got home, the house smelled warm and inviting. He walked in and said, "What's going on in here?" "We made dinner," Keisha said proudly. He smiled. "Well, I hope you saved me some." They sat at the table and ate together. No silence, no tension. Keisha told a story from school, and Marcus laughed out loud. After dinner, as Laura washed dishes, Keisha dried them. "I know I was mean before," Keisha said suddenly. Laura looked at her gently. "You were hurting. I understand." "I don't think I hate it here anymore," Keisha added. Laura's eyes watered, but she blinked quickly so Keisha wouldn't see. "I'm glad." For the first time, the house didn't feel divided. It felt like a home. One afternoon, Laura received an email from her old law firm. The subject line said, "Urgent offer, return to lead case." She opened it slowly. They wanted her back. Not just for any case, but a major one. The kind that could put her name on the front page of legal magazines. The kind of case she used to dream about. She sat in silence, staring at the screen. She hadn't worn a blazer in months. Her days were now filled with laundry, grocery shopping, and school drop-offs. When Marcus came home, Laura showed him the email. "They want me back," she said. "Wow," he said, reading the message. "This is huge. Do you want to take it?" "I don't know," Laura said. "I miss the work. I miss feeling like me. But if I go back, who will be here for Keisha? She's just starting to trust me." Marcus nodded. "You don't have to decide right now. Maybe talk to her about it." Later that night, Laura sat on the couch with Keisha. They were folding laundry together, something they had started doing every week. "Hey," Laura said gently, "can I ask you something important?" Keisha looked up. "Sure. My old job wants me to come back. It would mean long hours, maybe even some travel. What do you think?" Keisha didn't answer right away. She folded a towel slowly. "Would you still be here most days?" Keisha asked. "Probably not as much as now," Laura said honestly. Keisha looked down. "I want you to stay. But I get it if you go. You used to be a lawyer, right?" "Yes, it was a big part of my life." Keisha nodded. I don't know. I just feel like we're finally okay. Like you're not a stranger anymore." Laura felt her throat tighten. "You're not a stranger to me either." Keisha smiled a little. "So, to what makes you happy? But I'd miss you if you're gone all the time." The next morning, Laura stared at the email again. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. Then she clicked reply and typed, "Thank you for the offer. I'm honored. But at this time I have chosen a different path." She hit send. That weekend, Laura and Keisha baked cookies and danced in the kitchen to music playing from Laura's phone. Marcus walked in, watching them laugh and spill flour everywhere. "You look happy," he said to Laura later. "I am," she said. "For the first time in a long time, I really am." Keisha didn't say anything about the job again. But she hugged Laura before bed that night. A real hug, warm and full. Laura knew then she had made the right choice. Years passed quietly. Keisha was now in her final year of high school. The house felt different. Warmer, more alive. The once silent meals were now filled with laughter, stories, and even teasing jokes. Laura still wore her favorite white shirt on Sunday mornings. She now worked part-time in a small legal clinic nearby. It wasn't as fancy as her old job, but it gave her time to be at home and still do something meaningful. Keisha had grown into a smart, strong young woman. Her black hair was longer now, and she had learned to smile more. She still had tough days, but she didn't shut Laura out anymore. Marcus often said, "You two have your own language now." And he was right. One afternoon, Laura found a college brochure on the kitchen table. "New York University." Laura asked, "That's far." Keisha shrugged. "I just want to see what's up there." Laura nodded. You'd do great anywhere, but we'll miss you like crazy. Keisha looked down. I'd miss you too. Graduation came quickly. On the big day, the gym was full of proud parents, cameras, and bright decorations. Laura sat next to Marcus, dressed in a simple dress and holding back tears. As the students walked across the stage, Keisha stepped up to give a speech. Everyone grew quiet. Today, I want to thank someone very special, Keisha began. Someone who wasn't in my life from the start, but who chose to be there every day since. Laura's hands trembled in her lap. This woman gave up everything just to make sure I felt safe, even when I didn't make it easy. She didn't try to replace my mom. She just showed up, over and over. And one day, I realized I couldn't imagine my life without her. Keisha paused and looked straight at Laura. Thank you, Laura. You are my family. And no title or label will ever matter more than that. Laura couldn't stop the tears. Marcus put his arm around her, smiling proudly. After the ceremony, Keisha ran to hug her. You made me cry, Laura said, laughing through tears. I meant every word, Keisha replied. I love you. I love you too, Laura said, holding her tight. That night, they sat in the living room, eating leftover cake. So, Keisha said, You're not my real mom. Laura raised an eyebrow. You're better, Keisha finished. You chose me. And for Laura, those words were worth more than a job, title, or award. They were a real family, built not by blood, but by choice, trust, and love. And nothing could change that.